name of Allah, the most gracious, the most merciful. The Miraj was an interstellar and interdimensional journey of Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, that took place in just one night. A key point to note is that the Prophet did not travel beyond the seven heavens on the Buraq. Instead, he followed a specific path, one through which the spirits of the children of Adam ascend and the angels travel. One such path, or perhaps the very same one, is mentioned in the Quran. The angels and the spirit ascend to him in a day, the length of which is 50,000 years. In the last episode, we applied the Lorentz time equation from special relativity to calculate that angels traveling through this path move at the speed of light, causing extreme time dilation, where 50,000 years on Earth equates to just a single day on that path. But in the case of Miraj, something extraordinary happened. The Prophet, peace be upon him, traveled beyond the seven heavens, yet on Earth, only a few hours had passed, not 50,000 years. This tells us something fascinating. Using the principles of special relativity, we arrive at a striking conclusion. To cover such an immense distance in just a few hours, the Prophet must have traveled far beyond the speed of light. For perspective, Islamic sources describe the distance from Earth to the first heaven as a journey of 500 years, with the width of each heaven also spanning 500 years. Following this pattern, the total journey through all seven heavens amounts to 7,000 years of travel. However, what remains unknown is the unit of measurement. Whether 1 year of that journey equals an Earth year, a light year, or perhaps something far greater, like 50 light years. Yet, despite this staggering distance, the Prophet completed the journey in mere hours. According to our current mathematics, traveling such a vast distance within that time frame would require speeds far exceeding that of light. And this is where conventional physics reaches its limits. Our equations falter, our understanding collapses, and the laws we thought were unbreakable no longer hold. However, by combining insights from modern theoretical physics and Islamic cosmology, we can attempt to understand the journey of Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him. For a deeper understanding of the seven heavens, I recommend watching the video linked in the top right corner. The Miraj was not just a journey through space, but a transition across higher dimensions. In physics, we are familiar with three spatial dimensions: length, width, and height. Time is often considered the fourth dimension, but theories like string theory propose the existence of many more dimensions beyond these four. These extra dimensions could be hidden, folded in ways we cannot normally perceive. According to an authentic hadith, the first heaven, which contains everything we see, the stars, galaxies, and all celestial bodies, is like a tiny ring in an endless desert when compared to the second heaven. Similarly, the second heaven is like a ring in a desert when compared to the third, and this pattern continues up to the seventh heaven. This suggests that each heaven is incomprehensibly larger than the one before it. If we interpret this using physics, it aligns with the idea of higher dimensions, where each subsequent level is exponentially larger and more complex than the previous one. Thus, the heavens beyond our own can be understood as higher dimensions, and Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, ascended through these dimensions during his miraculous journey. To grasp this concept, imagine a 2D being, a creature that lives on a flat sheet of paper. It knows only left, right, forward, and backward. If a 3D human were to lift this creature off the paper, it would disappear from the 2D world without ever being seen moving through it. From the 2D being's perspective, the human just vanished and then reappeared elsewhere. Now apply this idea to our universe. If higher dimensions exist, and indeed they do, traveling through them could create shortcuts, bypassing our conventional understanding of distance and time. This is where the concept of portals and dimensional gateways comes into play. The journey began when the Prophet, peace be upon him, ascended from earth to the first heaven. This first transition was already extraordinary, moving from a 3D world into a higher dimensional space. In the Hadith, when the Prophet and Jibril reached the first heaven, there was a gate, and a guardian angel asked who was there. Jibril identified himself and the Prophet, and only after receiving permission were they allowed to enter. This description aligns with the idea that each heaven was sealed off from the one below it, requiring specific conditions to pass through. In modern physics, a similar concept exists in the form of brain theory, which suggests that our universe is like a membrane, brain, floating within a higher dimensional space. If two brains are stacked, the only way to move between them is through a special passage, what scientists call a wormhole or an extra-dimensional gateway. When the Prophet and Jibril passed through the gate, they weren't just traveling through space. They were transitioning into a higher dimensional realm. As the Prophet ascended, he and Jibril continued to move through gates, separating each heaven. Each of these gates marked a transition into a realm far greater and more complex than the previous one. This is exactly how scientists describe higher dimensions, each one exponentially larger and more complex than the one before. Imagine traveling from a small house into a vast mansion, then from the mansion into an entire city, and from the city into an entire planet. The heavens were not just larger in size, but fundamentally higher in dimensionality, meaning they contained more information, more possibilities, and likely different laws of physics. A crucial aspect of this journey is that time did not behave normally. The Miraj presents a major time paradox. Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, traveled through all 7 heavens, met many prophets, and saw various realms. Despite this vast journey, when he returned, only a few hours had passed on Earth. Since each heaven represents a higher dimensional realm, time in those places could behave differently from Earth. Just as different locations on Earth experience time zones, higher dimensions could have their own time structures. Time in one heaven may flow faster, slower, or even be non-linear compared to our world. So, the Prophet, peace be upon him, could have experienced the events of Miraj outside the normal flow of earthly time, allowing him to witness an entire journey while Earth's clock barely moved. Previously, we covered the journey up to the 4th heaven. Now, let's continue onward. As the Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, ascended through the heavens, guided by Jibril, they reached the boundary of the 5th heaven. The journey between the 4th and 5th heaven spanned a distance of 500 years of travel, and its vast expanse stretched just as far. Yet the Prophet, peace be upon him, and Jibril crossed this distance faster than the blink of an eye. When they arrived, the Prophet, peace be upon him, observed the 5th heaven, marveling at its splendor. It was made of red gold, shining so brilliantly that its light was almost blinding. This heaven bore the name al-Mutaha, the ornamente. As they approached its entrance, Jibril called upon the guardian angel to open the gate. The gatekeeper, as with the previous heavens, inquired, "Who is there?" Jibril answered, "It is I, Jibril." The gatekeeper asked, "And who is with you?" Jibril replied, "Muhammad." The guardian angel then questioned, "Has he been sent?" Jibril affirmed, "Yes." Upon hearing this, the gatekeeper welcomed the Prophet, peace be upon him, with great honor and joy, saying, "Welcome to him from his own family. May Allah grant him a long life. A noble brother and deputy. What an excellent brother and deputy. What an honored visit this is." With these words, the gate was opened and they stepped into the 5th heaven. Inside, the Prophet, peace be upon him, encountered Harun ibn Imran, the brother of Prophet Musa, peace be upon them both. Harun stood before a gathering of the children of Israel, engaging them with a story. The Prophet, peace be upon him, noticed Harun's striking appearance. His beard was half white and half black, reaching down to his navel due to its great length. When the Prophet, peace be upon him, greeted him, Harun returned the greeting warmly, saying, "Welcome to the righteous brother and the righteous Prophet." Then he invoked blessings upon him, praying for his goodness and success. The Prophet, peace be upon him, turned to Jibril and asked, "Who is this?" Jibril replied, "This is the beloved among his people, Harun ibn Imran." The Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, and Jibril continued their ascension through the heavens and reached the sixth heaven, a realm known as al-Khalisa, the pure. As they approached, the Prophet, peace be upon him, observed that the sixth heaven was made entirely of gems, glistening with radiant light. The vastness of the journey between the fifth and sixth heavens was equivalent to 500 years of travel, and the breadth of the sixth heaven mirrored this vast distance. Upon reaching the gate of the sixth heaven, Jibril knocked, and one of the guardian angels responded, asking, "Who is there?" Jibril answered, "I am Jibril." The angel then asked, "And who is with you?" Jibril responded, "Muhammad." The gatekeeper inquired, "Has he been sent?" Jibril confirmed, "Yes." Upon hearing this, the gate to the sixth heaven was opened, and the Prophet, peace be upon him, and Jibril entered. Once inside, the Prophet, peace be upon him, observed a massive dark throng that appeared to cover the firmament. He asked, "What is this throng?" Jibril explained, "This is Musa and his people." As the Prophet, peace be upon him, looked up, he saw another vast dark mass filling the expanse of the sky, stretching out in every direction. Jibril explained, "These are your ummah, and besides them, there are 70,000 among them who will enter paradise without giving an account." As they continued forward, the Prophet, peace be upon him, encountered Musa ibn Imran once again. Musa appeared as a tall man with a brown complexion, resembling the noble men of Yemen known for their pure lineage and manly virtue. The Prophet, peace be upon him, greeted Musa, and Musa warmly returned the greeting, saying, "Welcome to the righteous brother and the righteous Prophet." Then Musa invoked blessings upon the Prophet, peace be upon him, praying for his success and goodness. As the Prophet, peace be upon him, reached Musa, he noticed that Musa was weeping. The Prophet, peace be upon him, asked him, "What is it that makes you weep?" Musa replied, "I weep because a child sent after me will bring more of his people into paradise than I have from mine." The Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, and Jibril continued their ascension through the heavens, reaching the seventh heaven, the highest and most exalted realm. Upon arrival, Jibril asked for the gate to be opened, and the guardian angel asked the same questions. After that, the gate was opened, and the Prophet entered. Inside the seventh heaven, the Prophet, peace be upon him, saw a majestic scene. Ibrahim, the friend of Allah, was sitting upon a throne of gold at the gate of paradise. The back of his throne rested against the inhabited house, al-Bayt al-Mamur, a place filled with divine light and a great number of angels, continuously engaged in worship and remembrance of Allah. The Prophet, peace be upon him, greeted Ibrahim, and Ibrahim warmly returned the greeting, saying, "Welcome to the righteous son and the righteous Prophet." As the conversation continued, Ibrahim offered a piece of advice to the Prophet, peace be upon him. "Order your community to increase their seedlings of paradise, for its soil is excellent, and its land is plentiful." The Prophet, peace be upon him, inquired, "What are the seedlings of paradise?" Ibrahim replied, "The seedlings of paradise are the words, 'There is no change nor might except with Allah, the High, the Almighty.'" The Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, observed that alongside Ibrahim, there sat a group of people whose faces were as radiant and flawless as a blank sheet of white paper. However, there were others seated with them whose faces carried a faint imperfection. These individuals stood up and moved toward a nearby river where they immersed themselves. Upon emerging from the water, their faces had already begun to show signs of improvement, as some of their imperfection was washed away. They then entered another river where they bathed once again. Upon coming out of this river, their appearance had further improved. Finally, they entered a third river, and upon emerging from it, their faces were completely purified, their appearance now matching that of their companions. Seeing this, the Prophet, peace be upon him, turned to Jibril and asked, "O Jibril, who are these people with the white faces, and who are those with something in their faces? What are the rivers in which they bathed?" Jibril responded, "The ones with the white faces are those who never stained their belief with any form of injustice or disobedience. They remained steadfast in their faith, keeping it pure and free from sin. The ones with something in their faces are those who mixed good deeds with bad ones. However, they repented sincerely, and Allah, in His mercy, forgave them." As for the rivers, Jibril continued, the first river represents Allah's mercy, the second symbolizes His favor, and the third is the pure drink that Allah grants them, as mentioned in the Quran, and their Lord gave them a pure beverage to drink. The Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, was then informed, "This is your place, and the place of your community." He saw that his community was divided into two groups. One group wore garments as pure and white as a blank sheet of paper, while the other group wore clothes that were the color of ashes or dust. The Prophet, peace be upon him, entered the inhabited house, al-Bayt al-Mamur, accompanied by those in white garments. As they entered, the group dressed in ash-colored clothes was unable to follow. Despite this, they remained in the best of states, unburdened by their inability to enter. Within the inhabited house, the Prophet, peace be upon him, prayed, leading the believers who were with him in worship. Each day, 70,000 angels enter the inhabited house, never to return until the day of resurrection. This house is positioned directly above the Kaaba, so precisely that, were a stone to fall from it, it would land atop the Kaaba. Once the angels enter the inhabited house, they are never allowed to see it again, marking the immense honor of this celestial sanctuary. In one version of the narration, the three vessels, representing milk, wine, and water, were presented to the Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, at this place. The Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, was then raised to the lotus tree of the farthest limit, Sidrat al-Mutaha, a point beyond which no creation can ascend or descend. This is the boundary where all that ascends from the earth is seized, and where everything descending from above is also halted. The lotus tree itself is a magnificent creation. Its base is the source of several rivers. Rivers of pure water, milk that never changes in taste, wine that brings only pleasure, and purified honey. The shade of the tree is so vast that even someone traveling for 70 years under it would not reach its end. The tree's fruit resembles the jars of Hijar near Madinah, and its leaves are as large as the ears of an elephant. In fact, one of its leaves is large enough to encompass all of creation. On each leaf sits an angel, whose task is to cover it with colors that defy description. Every time the angel covers it by Allah's command, the color changes. According to one narration, the leaves shimmer like sapphire and chrysolite, their beauty beyond any human praise. Upon the leaves, moths of gold alight, adding to the ethereal beauty of the scene. From the base of this tree flow 4 rivers, 2 hidden and 2 visible. The prophet, peace be upon him, asked Gabriel, "What are these, O Gabriel?" Gabriel replied, "The hidden rivers are 2 rivers of paradise, and the visible ones are the Nile and the Euphrates." In another version, it is mentioned that at the base of the tree, a spring called Salsabil flows. From it, 2 rivers emerge, the river of Kauthar and the river of mercy. The prophet, peace be upon him, gazed at the river of Kauthar and saw it flowing with great force, as swift as arrows. Along its banks were pavilions made of pearls, sapphires, and chrysolite, and on top of these pavilions, delicate green birds nested, more beautiful than any the prophet had ever seen. The river flowed over pebbles made of sapphire and emerald, and its water was whiter than milk, sweeter than honey, and more fragrant than musk. The prophet, peace be upon him, took a vessel from the river, scooped up some water, and drank. He found the taste to be unlike anything on earth. Gabriel informed him, "This is the river Allah has granted you as a special gift. The other river is the river of mercy." At the lot tree of the farthest limit, Sidrat al-Mutaha, the Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, beheld Jibril in his true angelic form. Jibril appeared with 600 wings, each wing large enough to cover the entire firmament. From the wings, sparkling embellishments were scattered in every direction, pearls and sapphires beyond human comprehension, with a beauty that only Allah knows. From here, the Prophet, peace be upon him, was led to the river of Kauthar, a journey that took him to the gates of paradise. As he gazed upon paradise, he saw that it contained wonders beyond human imagination, what no eye has ever seen, no ear has ever heard, and no mind has ever conceived. Upon the gate of paradise, the Prophet read an inscription: "Charity is repaid tenfold, and the loan is repaid 18-fold." The Prophet, peace be upon him, was curious and asked, "O Jibril, how can the loan be more meritorious than charity?" Jibril explained, "Because charity can still be given by one who may have unmet needs, whereas the borrower only borrows when his need is fully fulfilled." The Prophet, peace be upon him, continued his journey and came across rivers of milk which never lose their taste, rivers of wine, bringing only pleasure to those who drink it, and rivers of purified honey. Over these rivers were domes made of hollowed pearls, so vast in circumference that they were comparable to the Aquarius star, a sight beyond any earthly comparison. Then, the Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, was shown the fire. In it, he witnessed Allah's immense wrath, punishment, and the severity of divine sanction. He saw that if rocks or iron were thrown into the fire, they would be consumed completely, disappearing into its fierce flames. Within the fire, there were people eating carrion, a torment that reflected their deeds. The Prophet, peace be upon him, inquired, "Who are these, O Jibril?" Jibril replied, "These are the ones who consumed the flesh of others, spreading slander and engaging in wrongful behavior towards people." Next, the Prophet, peace be upon him, saw Malik, the stern and unwavering custodian of the fire. Malik's face bore an expression of anger, reflecting the gravity of the fire and its torment. After this, the gates of the fire were closed, and the Prophet, peace be upon him, was lifted beyond the lot tree of the farthest limit, where a cloud concealed him from everything around him. Jibril stayed behind, keeping his distance. What lay beyond the lot tree? How did the Quraysh react when Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, described his journey to them? We will explore these questions in the next chapter.